Hello! Those of you who have been following the channel for a longer time already know that I'm quite a big Paradise Lost fan. I've dedicated a discography video for Paradise Lost, or to Paradise Lost, and I've also done an interview with Paradise Lost drummer. And obviously I've been talking about the music, individual reviews even, quite a bit. Icon was reviewed not too long time ago as one of the classics here on the channel, and now it's time for the new album called Obsidian. So being a long-time Paradise Lost fan, even though I fell off the wagon late 90s, only after a few years into the band, I kind of refound the band sometimes around 2007, and when I was kind of getting back to the wagon, listening to the ones that I missed, I realized this is some great Gothic, melodic, doom death kind of a combo, depending once again of which era you were talking about, or we are talking about. However, I realized soon after that one of my favorites indeed is in Requiem album from 2007. And even though the band has released many albums before that and quite a few after that, that album has kind of stood there as one of the kind of a cornerstone of an album by the band. I mean, there are various styles what the band has been doing, starting with kind of a raw doom death and then progressing towards kind of a Gothic style, then going even more further with even your levels of Depeche Mode kind of a pop rock, and then of course getting back to this kind of a doom, Gothic, death kind of a thing. It certainly has been an interesting career, but I'm not here to recap the career. Actually, that was what I was doing already with the discography video, so I'm obviously gonna talk to you about this album called Obsidian. Before we get into that, let's just quickly see how vast and big this discography after all is. I mean, come on, it started in 1990 with demos before that, so it's 30 years of music, and you're like, okay, this is quite a lot. And not only quite a lot, but also very much quality. So it's never been about quantity so much rather than quality. And in my opinion, the only actual bad album by the Paradise Lost band is the first one, which I still can not really stand even today. So how does Obsidian, you know, how it is compared to the others, how it is if it was put into the versus situation? Because the vast discography is definitely putting up some expectations and giving you a lot to wait for, but also giving you a little bit on the situation like you're on your toes, because the band has kind of a shedded skin so many times, and it's always on the verge of a change, despite not always doing that. So a little bit of recap is now in place. I mean, if you take a look at the beginning, it started with a very different band than what it is nowadays, and between all these years there has been a lot of changes, not only with the production but also the type of riffs used, the vocal range, especially coming from this raw growling to the kind of a soft spoken clean vocals and all that stuff. But one thing that has remained true throughout the whole career, and which is very much true with Obsidian here as well, is the lead guitar style by Macintosh. I mean, it's something that kind of labels more than anything the band like, hey, this is Paradise Lost. Now, given that Medusa and The Plague Within, that is the two previous albums, as you can probably see already here from 2015 and 2017, they were very much more going back to the death metal, which I guess was kind of a shock after great Tragic Idol album, and even more so after Fate Divides Us and In Requiem and so forth. I mean, they all were dark, they all had this kind of a Gothic feeling, and well, they were kind of a sad and melancholic albums, but they were not as death metallic. So for me, for example, The Plague Within was quite a bit of a disappointment. I mean, it's quite a good album, but definitely not even near being my favorite ones. I think Medusa a little bit got better or so, but still it was kind of like way too much death metal for me, coming from a band that is at best shape when it's not doing exactly death metal. Sounds kind of weird for a guy who just worships death metal and black metal. Anyway, Obsidian is kind of an interesting breed because in my opinion, it is like going back to the golden times. It would be mean to say it's recycled material, but I would rather say this kind of a metaphor. It's like your favorite pizza or burger, but with a little bit of a different twist. I mean, at the same time, it feels very familiar. You know all the ingredients. Well, most of them. I mean, the lead guitars, very much like Paradise Lost. The vocals, clean or rawish growling, all there to kind of bring this Paradise Lost vibe. I mean, Holmes is still Holmes. The vocals are the same, they sound the same. But, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. And now about the riffs, the songwriting. Everything seems like I've heard it before. I cannot put my finger on it, but I swear to God and Satan and all those other mythic creatures, I've heard it. And yet, of course, I haven't. So it takes me back to the days of, maybe more than anything, to days of in Requiem. Everything is so goddamn melancholic and kind of gothic, almost doom death, but not quite, not the purest kind. It's pretty much kind of the same, yet also vastly different what My Dying Bride was doing not too many months ago. So I think this is one of those bands that are able to capture something back from the years past and making it worthwhile listening once again. So it's not like recycling, it's not like reproducing, but it's more like creating this sort of a simulacrum of the previous stuff, but then a little bit of a twist. Add some seasoning, take something away from it, and you have it. So it feels fresh and yet at the same time familiar. So I don't know, really enjoyable album. Definitely one of the best ones so far this year 2020. I mean, I had high expectations for one of my favorite bands doing a new album. But still, I think this is a very positive surprise because, like I said, I was a little bit disappointed with Medusa and The Plague Within. So now that they're back into their kind of earlier 2000 stuff, it makes my heart warmer than a few years before. So definitely a really, really good album. I think this is very, very solid fan service work in a way, and not in a bad way, that is. I think they're delivering what people wanted, not just me, and mission accomplished. So, if you have skipped this for whatever reason, now it's time to those amends and listen to it. It's beautiful, it's nicely carved, it's awesome album. Paradise Lost, thank you.